Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Looks like we have a Bonnie and Clyde situation in our hand. Today, we dive into the life and crimes of this monster, along with his girlfriend, who unalived 11 people in Nebraska and Wyoming between 1957 and 1958, when he was only 19 years old and she was 15. Now, it says that the killing spree spanned over 2 months, but I am going to debate that it was just less than a month because his first one happened in 1957, November to be exact. That one was a solo act. Then together, they went on to unalive 10 more people between January 21st of 1958 and January 29th of 1958. So I don't think that was a 2 month period. It may have taken them 2 months to catch them, but their spree didn't span over 2 months. That's my argument. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're looking at it as when it started, they accounted for the break that he took in between, like the 1 December that he didn't do anything. I don't know. But yeah, that's my argument. I will be mentioning his girlfriend's name because I don't believe she was a victim. I think she was a willing participant, even though she denied it. And you guys can decide whether or not you think that she was an accomplice rather than a victim after you hear everything. Okay? Comment below. Okay. Who exactly are we talking about? Let's dive in. This creature's name was Charles Raymond Starkweather. Now, I have an accent, okay? English is not my first language. And I sat here and I was like, I can say Charles Raymond Starkweather and get that out one good time. But on a repeat, I'm not gonna get it right every time on repeat. So I was like, I gotta find a nickname for this guy, okay? So I've decided we're going to call him Chucky because he out here doing naughty stuff. So Chucky it is. Okay, work with me. Okay, great. Glad we're on the same page. Chucky was born on November 24th, 1938 in Lincoln, Nebraska. He was the fourth of 7 children born to Guy and Helen Arnold Starkweather. They were a working class family. His dad worked as a carpenter who had a hard time holding down a job because he had suffered from rheumatoid arthritis in his hands, and his mom worked as a waitress to help hold the family together and fill in the blanks where the dad couldn't and just help with the family's needs in general, right? I was reading a couple of articles. It never specified that the dad was abusive, but I think that he may have been abusive and took his frustration out on everyone because he had a hard time keeping a job to provide for his family. And perhaps he was a bit more harsh towards Chucky because it was said that even the dad admitted to pushing Chucky into a window. And it said that later on, the mom divorced the dad due to him being cruel. So I'm going to allege that he may have done more than just pushing him into a window, or maybe he pushed him more than once, and maybe Chucky suffered some type of head injury or something. Who knows? Because how do you just go from being a good kid to like an evil young man who's just going around unaliving people? It doesn't make sense. Chucky attended Saratoga Elementary School, Irving Junior High School, and Lincoln High School. It was said that Chucky had a severe bow-legged situation and had a speech impediment, so he was teased and or bullied a lot by his classmates, according to him, right? However, his elementary school teacher said that she never witnessed any teasing or bullying going on. Well, maybe they didn't do it in front of you. I don't know. Or maybe Chucky exaggerated. Who knows? We don't know. He probably was already feeling bad about his conditions. And, kids just being kids, they probably made some snarky remarks about his legs or the way that he was speaking. And then he just took that and ran with it. And he exaggerated it because he was already dealing with something. People do that sometimes. Or maybe they really did bully him and she just didn't see. We don't know. As he got older, Chucky became stronger and he found a love for physical education, right? Because that was the only place, that was his only outlet to let out his anger against those who he claimed bullied him. He then became the bully and decided to be an awful individual to anyone he decided he didn't like. Based on a letter he wrote while he was in prison, there is strong evidence to suggest that he was envious and bitter towards other people if he thought they were better than he was. Chucky was said to have gone from one of the nicest, most well-behaved teenagers in his community to the meanest person to ever roam the face of the planet. One of his friends from high school even stated that if Chucky liked you, he would be the nicest thing to you. He would do anything for you. But if he didn't like you for whatever reason, or if he felt like you looked better than him, or if you were bigger than him, or if you dressed better than him, he would literally drag you down to his size. Well, that's not very nice. Why can't you just let people be great and you be great? Anyways, it was also reported that his parents and family would say that they were afraid of him because he has such violent outbursts. In 1956, 18-year-old Chucky was introduced to 13-year-old Carol Ann Fugate. Who introduced you guys? How did you meet? Because she was in middle school and you were in high school. I don't think y'all two ran in the same circles. That's illegal, is it not? Chucky here must have been taken so much by Carol that he decided to drop out of high school and take a job at a newspaper warehouse because it was nearby where Carol went to school. And then he would visit her every single day after school. That's not creepy at all. That's totally normal. I guess they started hanging out every day after school, and he was teaching her how to drive using his dad's car until one day she crashed the car and the dad was like, "That is it. I have had it with you. Get out of my house." And homeboy was then kicked out of the family home. Chucky then quit his job at the warehouse and started working as a garbage collector. Yep, just climbing up the ladder here, aren't we, Chucky? See what I did there? Climbing, because you have to climb like the garbage truck. No? Okay. All right. You had to be there. Anywho, moving on. Remember earlier when I said his writings suggested that he had a high level of envy and bitterness towards other people he felt were better than him? Well, he developed a very distorted view of the world and decided all of his actions for the rest of his life were going to be to satisfy his biological needs to have power over others. Furthermore, his personal philosophy was, and I quote, "Dead people are all on the same level," end quote. And boy, did he live by this. One good night on November 30th, 1957, he had just turned 19. Chucky became angry at a gas station worker because the guy wouldn't sell him like the stuffed animal on credit. I guess he wanted to get the stuffed animal for his little girlfriend and he wanted the guy to sell it to him on credit and the guy wouldn't. So he kept going back to the store several times to buy small little items, and then finally he pulled out a gun on the guy and demanded that the guy give him money, like $100. He then forced the guy into the driver's seat of the guy's car and forced him to drive to a remote area. Once they got there, both of them were fighting over the gun, and during the fight, the guy was injured. He was shot, and Chucky then got the gun and shot him in the head several times. That was his first murder. It's so sad because I was reading somewhere, it said that the guy had a pregnant wife at home. And he was in his early 30s. That's so sad. On January 21st, 1958, he went to his girlfriend's house where her mom, stepdad, and little sister was living. I don't think they ever did approve of Chucky's relationship with their 13-year-old daughter. So when he got there, they turned him away. He must have not liked that at all because he shot them both to death. And then he beat the little sister to death. She was only 2 years old. What a monster. He then hid the bodies in an outhouse and a chicken coop in the back of the house. Chucky later on said that his girlfriend Carol was with him the entire time and apparently didn't have a problem with what he was doing, but then she denied it, saying that she arrived after the fact and he held her at gunpoint, saying that her family was being held hostage, and if she cooperated, they would live, and if she didn't, then he would kill them. So she was quote unquote cooperating. I don't believe that story because Carol was estranged from her family because they didn't like her relationship with Chucky. So I think she was a willing participant. Anyways, they placed a sign on the door, on the window that read, and I quote, "Everybody is sick with the flu," end quote. Now, people kept coming by and they kept turning them away. Mind you, this was on January 21st. Carol's grandmother must have gone there and they turned her away, and she became suspicious because she had not heard from her daughter. So then she alerted the police and they came out to investigate on January 27th. But Chucky and Carol were nowhere to be found because they had already left right before the police got there on the 27th. So they stayed there knowing that there were dead people in the back of the house that they had just killed. They lived there as, I don't know, maybe a couple or maybe not, I don't know, but they lived there in that house for 6 days after they murdered everybody. Oh my gosh. When the police got there, everything was like nice and together, but there was just no sign of life. So then Chucky's brother and his friend, they decided to like do a thorough search of the premises, and they did end up finding the bodies. Oh man. The police then issued an alert for both of them. After they left Carol's house, the couple then went to a farmhouse of a 70-year-old man. He was one of Chucky's family's friends who lived in Bennett, Nebraska. Chucky shot him in the head and also killed his dog. How sick are you? What was the dog gonna do? Tell on you? So you had to silence it? Oh my gosh. Then they went to flee the scene, but then they drove their car into the mud and it got stuck. They got out the car and proceeded on foot until they got offered a ride by 2 local teenagers. Once they got in their car, Chucky forced them to drive to an abandoned storm cellar in Bennett. When they got there, he shot the boyfriend several times. Then the girlfriend was also shot. However, when they discovered their bodies, the girlfriend was half naked and there was evidence of sexual assault and also mutilation of her sex organ, her cooter. If you know what I mean. Later on, he admitted to killing the boyfriend, but then insisted that Carol was the one who handled the girlfriend, which I think could be true because Carol may have gotten jealous that Chucky had sexual relations with the girl. So she got mad and shot her and destroyed her hoo-ha, allegedly. Or perhaps Chucky instructed her to do it. Who knows? What my point is, I don't think she was innocent and I don't think she never participated. But of course, Carol denied ever having had any involvement in any of the murders. She claimed that she stayed in the car and that she was a victim the entire time. So then after that, they took the car and they left Bennett. They drove the car to a part of Lincoln that was like a little bit more upper class, and they entered the house of this rich couple who happened to not be home. They found, however, the housekeeper whom they stabbed to death. They also killed the dog so it wouldn't alert nobody, I guess. Then they just sat there and waited for the couple to get home. The wife came home first and she was stabbed to death. And then the husband came home later and he was shot to death. Once again, Chucky stated that he only threw the knife at the wife, but Carol was the one who stabbed and killed her. While they were at the rich couple's house, they got their hands on the newspaper, and on the front page of that newspaper was a picture of them and Carol's dead family. They cut out the front page and took that picture with them. And when they were apprehended later on, they found, of course, those pictures on them, which is why there was like a major doubt on Carol's claim that she had nothing to do with this. She was like basically cooperating just to keep her parents alive. Well, then at that point, that's the investigators thinking she knew back then at that house that her family was no longer alive. But yet they went on to unalive many more people, right? Interesting. Anyways, so then they went through the house and stole every piece of jewelry they could get their hands on, filled up the husband's black 1956 Packard, which they stole, with stolen goods, and left Nebraska. The murder of that couple brought a lot of attention to law enforcement agencies and a lot of heat to the couple, because then the police started a block by block and house to house search for them. It didn't say what description they put out there, but I'm guessing they had mentioned that they stole the 1956 Packard. People started recognizing them in that car, so Chuck decided that it was not smart for them to keep driving that car because it's been identified, and they decided to switch cars. The couple spotted a poor guy. It was a poor traveling salesman that was just taking a quick power nap, probably because he was too tired, because he was taking a nap on the side of the highway. Okay, he was taking a nap in his Buick alongside the highway outside of Douglas, Wyoming. They woke him up and shot him 7 times, which again, Chucky here says it was Carol who did it. He swore up and down that Carol was the trigger happy one. Then they got in the car and started to drive off, but thankfully the car had like a parking brake, and it's not something I guess Chucky was used to. So while he was attempting to drive away, the car would not go very fast because, you know, the brake was still on and it had not been released. He tried to restart the engine and nothing. And a guy who was passing by on a motorcycle saw what was happening. So then he stopped to help them. And the dum-dum, Chucky here, threatened him with a rifle. So then the guy was like, absolutely not. They got into an altercation, and a sheriff deputy then arrived on the scene to break up the fight, I guess, because I don't think he knew at the time that that was Chucky and Carol. But before he could get to them, Carol ran towards the police officer, yelling, and I quote, "It's Starkweather, he's going to kill me," end quote. Seeing what was happening, Chucky then got back into the stolen 1956 Packard and took off, which then turned into like a car chase with him and 2 other police officers. It was said that they were exceeding 100 miles per hour during that chase. And one of the officers fired his gun and the bullet shattered the glass, which then cut Chucky and he started bleeding. And that's when he stopped and surrendered. He was captured near Douglas, Wyoming on January 29th, 1958. And the police was saying that he was only captured because he was chicken shit. Okay? Had he not started bleeding and exaggerated and thought he was about to die, when he actually had a minor cut, he probably would not have stopped. Now, believing he would have been executed either way, Chucky chose to be extradited from Wyoming to Nebraska, not knowing that the Wyoming governor at that time was opposed to the death penalty. Oh, look at his mistake. That was a mistake on his part, but I love this for him. Chucky had agreed with Carol at first, saying that she was in fact kidnapped and had nothing to do with the murders, but then later on he changed his story several times, and he even testified against her at her trial, saying that she was a willing participant. Chucky also stated that he believed that he was supposed to die, and if he was to be executed, then Carol should be as well. But Carol stuck to her story about how she did not know that her family had already been dead and that she was being held hostage. But like I've been saying, I don't believe that, and the judge did not believe that either, and said that she had many opportunities to escape had she really been a hostage and not an accomplice. There's like a tiny little part of me that's like, okay, she was only 14 and she didn't have the cognitive maturity to make certain decisions. But I'm also like, yeah, you know not to take people's lives at 14. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't agree though with Chucky that she needed to be put to death as well. But I also think that she shouldn't go free, because I strongly believe she had some sort of involvement. I don't think she was a victim. Something I read that was weird, I don't know if it's true or not, but it was said that Chucky was only tried for one murder. What about Carol's family? What about all the other ones? Like, did we feel like it didn't matter anymore because he was found guilty and was going to put to death for that one person? But, like, what of the other families? Do they not want to see justice for their family members and friends? I thought that was weird. I don't know if it's true. If you know the story, let me know in the comment below. Anyways, after the jury deliberated for only 22 hours, Chucky was found guilty of first-degree murder on May 23rd, 1958, and was sentenced to death. On June 25th, 1959, Chucky was executed in the electric chair at the Nebraska State Pen in Lincoln, Nebraska. I would say that I am devastated, but I'd be lying. Y'all know how I feel about the electric chair and the gas chamber. I was smiling from ear to ear. Don't judge me, okay? It was said that Chucky didn't have any last words before his execution, but he wrote a letter to his parents that said, and I quote, "But Dad, I'm not really sorry for what I did, because for the first time, me and Carol had more fun." End quote. Fun? This was fun to you? Taking a whole bunch of lives in less than a week was fun to you? What a psycho. It was said that he had zero remorse. He was indifferent about it all, but in the end, he was buried in the same cemetery as 5 of his victims, including Carol's family. I guess in the end, he did end up living by his philosophy because you wanted to unalive people just because you wanted power over them, and look where you end up, right next to them in the same cemetery. So yeah, like he said, dead people are all on the same level, including you. But the difference between you and them is that they were loved and they were important, and you were just the scum of the earth. Carol was convicted as an accomplice and she received a life sentence on November 21st, 1958. However, she was paroled in June of 1976 after serving only 17 and a half years. She currently resides in Hillsdale, Michigan. Anyways, y'all know I'm a little torn about her, but let me know what you guys think. You think she received a fair sentence? Do you think she should have been paroled? But I don't know. I'm torn. I'm torn about her. I'm not torn about her conviction, but I'm like, should she have been paroled after only 18 years? I don't know. Let me know what y'all think about her sentence down below in the comment section. Anyways, that is all I have on these despicable creatures. Let me know if you guys agree with their conviction and sentence in the comment below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next one. But until then, I hope to see you in the comment section. Bye.